Hello, it's Big Chads, and this is the Trading Encyclopedia Daily Education series on my YouTube at Chads Trading. You can find me on Twitter at Big Chads and Bitcoin Live, where I'm a founding analyst. For today's lesson, we're going to talk about a measuring gap or a runaway gap. Now, there's other videos where we talk about the different type of gaps. A runaway gap, we've talked about a breakaway gap, we've talked about a breakdown gap. We've talked about an exhaustion gap. Now, here's just an image of a few of these. Just common gaps, minor gaps happening within the trend. Not much to talk about with those, but really what's interesting with like a measuring gap, okay, is where it comes in the middle of the trend, and you can actually use it to essentially project out how far the trend might go. So a measuring gap or a runaway gap, based on the name measuring, you're measuring a move. So in an uptrend, what you can do is take the point from the lowest low before the gap and you move it into the middle of the gap and you can project out. And I'll show you here on a chart. So here we have a chart of Apple, and we're looking at actually a measuring or a runaway gap on the move down. So we have the highest high to the middle of the gap. We take it and we extend it down, and it almost perfectly projected when that trend, the length of that trend and when that trend would continue. So we can do it in reverse as well. Thinking about this as an uptrend, here we have the gap. The gap did not fill, right? But you take the point from the lowest low into the middle of the gap, you project it out, and it gives you where you think the trend may run into some trouble. But it's essentially the idea is you're measuring the distance, just another way in classical charting to kind of measure this, the length of the trend. Here's a quick overview. You can read this, of course, on your own time, on your own leisure. The AI overview that talks about volume components. You want to see volume on that gap session to give you strength, to give you confidence, essentially, that the trend is going to continue, in the direction of that gap. I'm just showing you the one example here of the gap down, but in these other examples as well, for example, here the measuring gap in a trend up. So in this session, you want to see high volume on this runaway or this measuring gap session. You also want it to come in a clean area. You don't necessarily want to have this gap in a congestion area. When it's trending here nicely and then it gaps up, it's a runaway measuring gap. It's a better chance that it's going to continue rather than happening right in the middle of some type of a congestion area, for example. So here are some main types of gaps. We've talked about them in other videos. We're doing the measuring or the runaway gap. It's a concept in classical charting. And this is for the Trading Encyclopedia Daily Education series on my YouTube at Chads Trading. Find me on Twitter at Big Chads and Bitcoin Live, where I'm a founding analyst. Thank you, folks. I'll talk to you soon. Big Chads out.